Welcome to the internet, live from the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. This is the Red Line Podcast. I'm your host, Obama Soda Dunstan, and these are my co-hosts,
Kyle Holland and
Alex Fielder. Today, it's all about New Orleans' extensive historic streetcar network. How did it manage to survive the 1960s, and what does the future look like? All this after the news.
The MTA announced yesterday that Grand Central Madison, the Long Island Railroad's new concourse under Grand Central Station, will open to trains for the first time on January 25th, running a limited shuttle between Grand Central and Jamaica Station until LIRR schedules can be adjusted later in the year. The project represents a quantum leap forward in the fight to build true regional rail for the New York City Metro, and is bound to be exciting for the many Long Island commuters whose daily rides to work it will shorten.
Okay, I know Grand Central is already absolutely massive, and I really don't know how Metro North manages to use all of those tracks, but did they just...
don't.
Oh.
They just decided that they were going to waste money and build a new concourse for Long Island Railroad instead of just changing.
They just mined this out under Grand Central?
Yeah.
Just straight up?
Uh-huh.
New York City.
New York City has really good geography for tunneling. Or geology.
Interesting. Doesn't London have, like, nice clay or something?
Yep, good old London clay.
Yeah.
Yeah, some places...
Traps heat perfectly.
But it's good for tunneling.
New York City happens to have really good, like, soil and rock for tunneling.
Despite being...
And then somehow manages to be the
coast.
most expensive place to build
It's also on
subway
the
in
coast
world.
and doesn't seem to have, like, huge water table issues.
Yeah. So that's good. In other news, the Pittsburgh T appears to be following the example of its big brother in Boston, as light rail service was suspended for nearly an hour on January 20th after a small fire appeared under the Panhandle Bridge. The cause of said fire is still unclear, but as it resulted in no damage, this news bulletin was included mostly to have an excuse to make fun of the MBTA. Please clap. Thank you. So, the question is, qu'est-ce que un Nouveau Orleans? What is a New Orleans? Where is a New Orleans?
This is marginally funny because it's in French.
And because New Orleans was a French city at one point.
Whoa, this is a high-quality bit. I'm amused.
He's being mean to me.
See, I'm actually
slapping.
amused, so...
Yeah, you should be. It was funny.
Slap noise.
Oh, got me there.
Yeah. We slapped him twice.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of a unique city in America. It's known for the, Creole culture, the French Quarter, jazz, Mardi Gras, barbecue, kind of like the cultural center of the South, in a way.
Cool.
It is one of the great American cities, I would say. Like, if I were to make a list of, American cities everybody should visit, you got, obviously, New York, Boston, Philly, etc. Chicago, not LA, screw you. That was a joke. LA would be on that list. San Francisco.
Salt Lake.
No. And New Orleans and maybe Atlanta or something. So it's kind of on the unique American cities list.
It's also on the list of cities where climate crisis is gonna completely obliterate.
Blub 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 blub.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
Yeah, it's I think the second lowest major city in the United States.
Oops.
Other
That
than Miami.
sounds right to me.
Because Miami's literally, on the beach, so.
Time to start building a wall.
Build a wall, make New Orleans not sink into the ocean. Huge. Etc. So yeah. Interesting city.
History of New Orleans.
L'histoire de Nouveau Orleans.
Ja,
Wow.
mucho historia.
C'est oui, n'est-ce pas, ja? That's German.
New Orleans was the second city in the
Hey.
United States to adopt
Go for it.
to adopt streetcar service, only being beat out by New York City, with the St. Charles Line beginning operation in 1835. How early is that on the timeline of the invention of trains and industrialization?
Well, like they said, it was the second street railway in the country, and I believe in the world as well, but I couldn't verify that.
When did we finish the Transcontinental Railroad?
After this.
Okay then.
Significantly.
Go New Orleans.
Yes. The original trains were pulled by steam locomotives, but these were replaced by horse cars after a Confederate, everyone boo please,
Boo.
general bought out the railway operating the line
Boo.
after the Civil War.
Wait, chose to have it driven by horses?
Well, and the reason for this is kind of interesting because originally it was actually a suburban line, like it was a commuter railway that went from New Orleans to the suburbs, but by the time he bought it out, it was like urbanized along the whole line, so they turned it into a streetcar instead.
Oh, okay.
As should happen on any transit line.
Yes, basically.
Cool.
And did they switch to horses just because horses put their pollution in little packets on the ground instead of the air?
And they don't, woo, woo, they don't make as much noise.
Battery electric
They just go,
horses.
oh, wait.
They just go,
nay.
Which is an objectively pleasant sound.
should have been like one of those sound people on the radio in the 1930s.
You're really good at the foley, aren't you?
So, an interesting post-Civil War side note, New Orleans streetcars were desegregated from 1867 to 1902, following a massive set of protests and riots after a man named William Nichols was forced out of a whites-only streetcar.
Again, very well ahead of the curve. Good on them.
Wait a second. The advent of the 20th century and the precursors to the horrific Jim Crow regime would bring an end to desegregated streetcars in the city in 1902 after the state of New Orleans passed a law forcing segregation on the streetcars. It was an unpopular decision at the time, if you would believe it.
Wow.
Whistle the Confederate anthem here.
Yeah. So, that was unfortunate.
Rip.
And it wouldn't be until 1958 when everything was desegregated again.
Whether it wanted to be or not.
Yeah.
That's really
Well, actually, in New
interesting.
Orleans, it was done willingly.
Oh, wow. Go New Orleans.
So,
Sounds like New Orleans has always
like,
been...
more willingly, I should say, than the rest of the country. So,
I say good on them.
that is a good thing. I do
Yeah.
wish that, they hadn't backslid for, 56 odd years, but, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Streetcars continued to expand throughout New Orleans over the course of the 19th and early 20th centuries, operated by a variety of companies. Electrification began in 1893 on the Carrollton line, soon followed by the rest of the lines.
Since this
I'm
was
betting that's the Carrollton line.
Carrollton.
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 Yeah.
All right, since this was such early technology, how did they go about electrifying?
Well, so from the point we were talking about when the streetcar was taken over by horse car
Horses,
man,
because they're
and the point of electrification, 40 years later, they tried a lot of interesting things. For example, cable cars. So
okay.
established technology.
The cable
right?
goes in the ground and you grab onto it.
Right.
Okay.
They tried to do that overhead because New Orleans
Base.
water table is too low or too high for them to put anything underground.
Okay.
Basically a gondola on steel wheels.
So it was above in the street, and it would run like a ski lift up along the whole street, hauling the cars.
That doesn't seem like it would work too well.
Well,
That
it didn't.
seems
That's
alright.
why it didn't. They tried ammonia engines.
You can burn that, right?
I guess.
Okay.
That didn't work out, and then they, briefly on several lines were like, let's do the woot woot train, steam trains again. So, yeah, but then they were like, oh, this is stupid. Let's just put electricity in it.
As, electric motors mature, just a thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Still not as cool as, was it San Francisco with the massive underground cable system and the big powerhouses with the engines that pull the cables around the whole city?
still have those.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's cool.
So, and they have a new one in the Oakland BART connection as well. The Oakland
A new
Airport.
one.
The Oakland Airport has a BART connection, and it's called the Beige Line or something. But it's just 2 stops, and it's just a cable gadgetbahn thing that shuttles between BART and the airport.
Automated?
Well, it's a cable, so probably
Yeah. Sweet.
kind of special
Yeah.
trademark.
Good for them.
Yeah. So that's a weird, fun side note. Consolidation also began during this time, and by 1905, New Orleans Railway and Light Company was operating all the streetcars in the city. Along with consolidation came labor disputes. Every separate streetcar operator, and this is the typical like American streetcar balkanization where we have like the 4th South Railway, the 6th South Railway, the 8th South Railway, the 9th South Railway, and the 23rd South Railway.
Neck and neck competition.
And they're all different companies, and they all have different labor contracts with their employees.
Doesn't sound so bad.
I mean, the unions were probably very powerful because it was like 3 guys and they could just beat up their boss.
I'm not saying we should bring that back, but we should bring that back.
Yeah.
Like we have, the 9th South Bus Operations Company Incorporated, and it runs exclusively.
It runs a bus every 2 minutes, and it makes boatloads of money, and everybody rides it because it's so cool.
And if the operators don't get long enough of a break, they just
go on strike,
run over their boss. So, but yeah, the consolidators are like, okay, well, we're one company now instead of 80. So what we should do is we're going to standardize operations and we're going to standardize pay and benefits.
And have, the efficiencies of a large organization.
Right. And then, the unions being based were like, how about no? And
we want this and we want that.
And we go on strike in 1902, 1920, and 1929, which is the most famous. It enjoyed super broad popular support from the public. Streetcar workers were asking for better pay. There were riots, and the strike formed the mythical origin of the po' boy sandwich. It's meant to be like poor boy, but in like a Creole accent. So po' boy. I'm so sorry. Because supportive civilians would give sandwiches to the strikers on baguettes, and that's what a po' boy sandwich is.
Incredibly based.
That's where that was invented, and yeah.
Goodness, this makes me think of transit strikes, where the transit workers keep running the service but refuse to collect fares.
Yeah,
huh.
Fare strikes are probably the best kind of strike.
Yeah, therefore everybody's happy except the big bosses. And mission accomplished.
And the transit system 5 years down the line if they don't resolve the issue.
TFL
when they have fare strikes is a serious issue because they're reaping the consequences of a fare strike a while ago right now.
Yeah, well maybe they'll learn to fix it faster.
Interesting concept.
So Alex, what happened with these streetcars later on?
Well, like most American cities, the rise of the automobile brought immense change to the city of New Orleans. The first buses were introduced in 1924, and the bustitution.
That's a real word, okay?
Yeah,
just because Grammarly says it's not a thing. Oh, it does. But bustitution, it's a thing.
Well, the bustitution of routes continued to progress through the first half of the 20th century, especially as transit became less profitable.
Because somebody else pays for the roads, trademark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And by the early 1950s, only 4 streetcar lines were left. The South Claiborne line, the Napoleon line, the Canal line, and the St. Charles line.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty good for the 1950s, having 4 entire functioning lines.
I know, but this didn't last very long. The Napoleon line and South Claiborne line were bustituted in 1958, and the last cars ran on the Canal line in 1964.
1964. That's pretty late.
That's about the same as that St. Louis streetcar. The M started with an M. We discussed this last episode. I don't remember. Look it up, Kyle. This is so copyrighted, we cannot do that.
Doing, doing.
You're
Doing,
completely
doing.
wrong.
What was it?
The last streetcar was the number 15 Hoyt-Mont.
Oh, Hoyt-Mont, okay. Yeah, so about the same year as the Hoyt-Mont line was discontinued. But Kyle, we've only mentioned 3 streetcar lines being discontinued.
What happened with the last one?
I don't know. Oh, yes, I do, actually. The St. Charles line was destined for a different fate. As one of the strongest ridership lines, it had survived into the 1970s, and locals had been fighting to keep it running for years. In 1973, the NIMBYs decided to be based and got the St. Charles Streetcar line listed on the National Register of Historic Places, preventing its shutdown and allowing it to become the longest continually operated street railway in the world, a title it still holds today.
Wow, go NIMBYs.
I know. So,
I love abusing the Register of Historic Things for good.
well, it was good then, maybe. Anyway, so, naturally, transit was not profitable anymore, as Alex, would be greatly surprised to learn.
Whoa, this has never happened
Thank
ever
you for the
anywhere
appreciative
else.
gasp. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we're in the, quote, modern era, close quote. What
Yeah, well,
happened
New
now?
Orleans did their RTA a lot later than most people. Like, most people got theirs in, the 70s. Like, UTA got theirs in the 70s. TriMet, 70s. Even the MBTA was earlier than that. But, New Orleans got their RTA in 1983 after years of faltering privately operated transit service. And this appeared to be a new dawn for rail transit in New Orleans, as only 5 years later, in 1988, the Riverfront line was open for business. A new streetcar line.
Brand new? New tracks? New everything?
New tracks.
Same vehicles?
streetcar?
New Orleans refuses to use modern light rail vehicles and operates all of their lines as historic lines.
Because the cars look old?
It's not just that. They use trolley poles.
Oh.
And,
Is that actually,
they're
effective
not all
and
wheelchair
reliable?
accessible.
Ah, yes, historic.
But anyway.
Is this to be cute and quaint, or?
Yes.
Because it definitely wouldn't be cheap, would it?
No, it's probably significantly more expensive than operating modern vehicles.
You can't just go order the part on the manufacturer's website.
You have to find a blacksmith.
Yeah.
Not even kidding. The RTA has their own blacksmiths to fix the green cars, which are the ones that run on the St. Charles line and are 150 years old.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So they've got the...
What are they going to have their apprentices start building entirely new heritage streetcars using 150-year-old
That's just
techniques?
Not really a possibility.
Hey, if they want it to be.
Can't afford that. That would be a
Unlimited
normal
money.
light rail vehicle's $3 million a pop. That would probably be $10-20 million for a brand new heritage streetcar.
Yeah, but it looked pretty and it'd be hard to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Well, it'd be easy to maintain because you'd have the guy who built it there.
Yeah. So expansion continued. In 2004, the Canal Line, which was closed exactly 40 years earlier, was rehabilitated and had service restored.
Awesome.
And
Same
then,
deal?
Same line.
Okay.
That
Same-
they had
same old
closed. That they had
cars, same
closed
old
40
Same
years
cars,
earlier.
same... Wow.
Probably the
Probably
same
some
cars.
new copper. That's about it.
Yeah. And then in 2013, a new line was opened on Loyola Avenue, the most recent expansion of the system. This was an all-new line.
So new.
New, but still using heritage streetcars.
Ah, of course, because we couldn't just buy new vehicles.
Yes. And then, off the top of your head, what would you guess was a significant event in New Orleans, Louisiana in the year 2006?
Does it involve the ocean?
It does involve the ocean, warm.
Does it start with a K?
Of course, the answer is Hurricane Katrina, one of the most devastating hurricanes in America until 2 years ago because climate change. And so it just smashed right into New Orleans and had a really devastating effect. And the city still hasn't entirely recovered from it. It was just so bad, $143 billion worth of damage.
Whew.
Billion with a B?
With a B.
Wow.
It's 1 year's worth of highway spending.
Not even. But yeah, so it was bad. And the streetcars also had a bad time. All of the red cars, which are the newer historic cars, were basically destroyed, had to be rebuilt at a cost of $1 million a piece. The green cars survived because they were in this fancy sealed barn designed to stop hurricanes. Because they're 150 years old, they're like a moving museum. You gotta
You literally can't replace them.
they are irreplaceable in every sense of the word.
Cool.
So they survived along with
Wow.
one red car that happened to be in that shop for maintenance.
I seriously question this running a museum on your transit line.
And then, half the catenaries, or not catenaries, trolley lines, trolley wires were,
Which are definitely
taken out.
technologically superior to
And so,
catenaries.
the St. Charles line was out of service for a year and a half until 2009, and the rest of the system didn't fully recover until 2011. So it was a bad time. for streetcars.
Yeah.
Especially since they had to, rebuild every streetcar because they were all broken.
And the streets, too, and the things on them.
And the
rails.
houses and the trees and
Yeah.
the sewage systems.
Oh, sounds like a brand new city.
I mean, yeah, like I said, New Orleans has never fully recovered from Hurricane Katrina to this day. Like, it was just very bad, and the Bush administration didn't do enough to help. And neither did the Obama administration, which could have, assisted a couple years later. I know. So, that brings us to today. The good old 2020s, the era of
With progress and transit.
and climate change.
Can we get a look at a map on our not a slide?
If you couldn't hear that, I was muttering under my breath. Where is the... I had a map, but it's gone.
Okay, I'll
closed it
find
by
the
accident.
Norda?
New Orleans Rapid Transit.
Hey, at least you can pronounce it.
Norta?
The new
Oh,
route
wait,
map.
here it is. I have a map. So, there are currently 5 lines in operation. The St. Charles line, which is the oldest and I think the longest. The Loyola Rampart line, which is the newest and the second shortest. The Riverfront line, which is the shortest. And then the Canal Street, and, the Canal Street line has 2 branches. One is red, one is green. Neither one is very long.
All right.
That's what they got. They run 5-minute frequencies at peak times sometimes.
Per line?
I can look on the transit app if you want, but that's what it said on a website that I read.
You're such a royale haver.
So, St. Charles line, it looks like, is running on 15-minute to 12-minute headways mostly.
Nice.
All New Orleans streetcar lines run overnight, which is nice.
Overnight?
Or at least the St. Charles line.
Is that
does.
legal?
Yeah, they run overnight. There are 24/7 services. Let me make sure I'm right
My brain
on that.
might explode.
Service should be illegal.
Yeah, and they run. Yeah, so they run 24/7, which is nice. Frequency obviously goes to complete garbage during the night.
But that's fine.
Well, garbage is better than
Nothing.
rubbish.
So it looks like the St. Charles line has a maximum of 12-minute frequency.
All right.
The
Respectable.
Canal line has 2, branches, each of which run 20, so that's 10-minute
10,
frequency.
Also respectable.
The Loyola line looks like runs slightly less than 20-minute frequency.
Oh.
And then the Canal line, or not the Canal line, the Waterfront line or Riverfront line, whatever it is, I cannot find on here. But I'm assuming it runs 20 or something.
Seems
So,
alright.
Not terrible.
Yeah.
You want to know what the ridership was pre-pandemic?
For just the streetcars, what was it?
21,000 a day. On a system that is 22 miles long. In the heart of an urban core of a city.
It's 1,000 per mile.
A relatively dense city as well.
That's not a lot for the system size.
Is this because it's cutesy wootsy little old trolleys?
We'll get there. Also, a lot of it is inaccessible.
And unlike the New York subway, they don't have excuses.
Well, they do, and that excuse is Mardi Gras.
Explain.
Because they shut down the streetcars during Mardi Gras.
Mm-hmm.
And
Why?
so the entire street has to be flat for the massive parades to go over, and so we couldn't possibly have level boarding for wheelchairs because that would disrupt the flow of the parade.
That's the excuse.
That is the reason that there is not, And, some lines are accessible. Some of the newer red cars are rebuilt to have, accessibility ramps and crap. But, the St. Charles line is just mostly not. And it's the longest one and the highest ridership one.
It's a pretty weak sauce excuse.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah. This is going to be very controversial because people think that the reason people ride streetcars in New Orleans is because they are cutesy in heritage and not because they provide a decent transit service.
The New Orleans Regional Transit Authority seems to think so as well.
Yes. It is my opinion that you should put the museum cars in a museum where they belong.
Whoa.
purchase modern light rail vehicles.
Put up some actual, like, you know.
Like if you look at the St. Charles line, like let's go to Google Maps real quick, our best friend here at the Red Line Podcast. The St. Charles line, if you look at it from above, it is just a modern street running light rail alignment.
Like, not like, you know, sharing with cars or whatever.
Let's have a look here we go. We're on St. Charles Avenue, right? We have in the middle of the street, the whole entire line is basically a modern median running light rail line, except for the fact that it has A, no platforms, and B, runs streetcars that are like 100 years old.
I can see this.
The same, and the stops are just absurdly frequent. Like, you know, look at that. That's every two of their blocks. Like, every two of our blocks is pretty close. But these stops are, 600 feet apart.
So it's slow and inaccessible and falling apart.
It's not falling apart.
Because they're well-maintained.
Because they're well-maintained museum streetcars. But yeah, it's just
stop spacing
completely absurd to me. Like, I understand the historical value of that.
600 feet between stops.
Do what Muni does. Run modern light rail vehicles over your alignment, and then if you're having a special event, you can bring out all the old heritage streetcars you keep in reserve.
Yep.
Have a cutesy-wootsy streetcar day.
Like every heritage, like every legacy light rail network in the country does this. It's just...
UTA's modern bus routes have a less dense stop spacing than this.
Yes.
UTA's regular bus routes have a less dense stop spacing than this.
I know. And it's just not good, guys. Like, I understand the value of a heritage streetcar, but you're really just completely limiting yourself in what you can do in terms of transit here, because
technology is stuck in the 1800s.
You're running a whole, basically what is a 2.5 line light rail system as a heritage streetcar for no reason.
So you're running it very slowly, and it's inaccessible.
I understand the value of historic preservation. That's great. There are
do that
more
in a
important
museum.
things. You can keep the waterfront line as a historic streetcar because it doesn't go anywhere and nobody rides it. But you need to make an accessible user experience and a good user experience that is not, just predicated on the idea that everyone rides this because it's heritage.
So many stops. There's so many stops.
Stop. It's my opinion, and I'm sure I'm going to get lambasted for this in terms of, New Orleansers or whatever. I don't know what the demonym is, but for it's our, streetcar, it's a heritage thing. Well, great. More people would ride it if it was modernized. Period.
Yep.
Because then it would not suck.
And the heritage is more in the root and the fact that it's been running since the dawn of time.
Right.
Than in the fact that the cars are old as crap.
You look at railways that have been running since, the early 1800s in, the United Kingdom.
They're not running steam locomotives.
They run steam locomotives on old branch lines that aren't needed anymore, and that's their heritage railway, not on vital pieces of urban transportation infrastructure.
Just build stops that have nice little pictures and
this is
history facts and...
This is the equivalent of everyone having to drive Model Ts on a modern expressway because our past, because this is the first turnpike in America, and even though it's now been modernized into a 16-lane giga highway, only Model Ts can drive on it.
That sounds pretty cool.
I mean, yes, but
not practical.
But
yeah.
I just feel as though New Orleans is severely limiting the modal share that they could be getting out of this, the utility that people could be getting out of this by continuing to run everything as a heritage streetcar.
So would they have to take the line off of the historical places?
I don't think so.
Because it would still be a historical place.
It's still historical.
It's not like a building. It's some tracks in the ground.
Right. The tracks in the catenaries are the historic part. And so you modernize those and they're, wow, look at how our history has evolved.
They should sell rose-colored glasses that make the modern light rail vehicles look like the cutesy...
That could 100% be an app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do an AR thing or something. But, it just seems completely ridiculous to me, and I don't...
Maybe keep every other stop for the old streetcars. Then make normal stops. And then
Seriously, cut like
then like
two-thirds of these
maybe like
stops.
once a year, bring them out, use the other stops,
Yeah.
have fun.
Just
Fun day. Fun streetcar day.
They need to, that it's just kind of unacceptable at this point that you're trying to run.
I picked a segment on St. Charles, and the average running speed is like 9 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It could be twice that.
It,
9 miles
it
per hour?
could be, twice that easily.
Maybe more with some work, but twice that easily.
Jeez.
Like,
Easily.
18 miles an hour, you have like a full like rapid transit service through the coolest and like some of the denser parts of the city.
And you can have higher capacity, better accessibility.
And you will get more ridership from
You
these
can have
things.
enough vehicles to run higher frequency
Yeah.
through the
So
magic of buying them.
it's just not... I'm not a fan of this continued idea that we have to operate things as heritage for the sake of them being old.
The bike time between streetcar stops should not be lower than the streetcar time between streetcar stops. Let me
Right.
just say that.
Right. Like, even the S-Line manages that. So, anyway, there's my big opinion on New Orleans' streetcars. They should be modernized. They are cutesy and fun, though, so I guess that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have an opinion to offer on this? Or can we move to the Patreon episode?
No, I think that's a good opinion
Yeah.
to end on.
And
Okay.
if you want to listen to the Patreon episode, join our Patreon.
Yeah, join our Patreon. We have now 2 Patreon exclusive episodes,
Yeah.
and we will have more in the future. And you get early access to all episodes as well as, merch, theoretically, someday.
You can talk to us.
And you can ask us questions, and we'll do answers to them. Fun questions. So Zach Adams has asked, but also, and ignore this if you've already answered it, which are y'all's favorite transit lines that you've ridden or exist? Because I will do both. How about that?
Let's
You
do both. Let's start with what we've ridden.
Yeah.
The red line.
Weak. Clearly this line.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, probably Front Runner. I very much enjoy Front Runner. It's a very pleasant riding experience.
Yeah.
I've been to New York, so New York.
What have you ridden? What is your favorite line you've ridden in?
Ooh,
Yeah.
Let me look it up.
Okay. Because my favorite transit line that exists is probably the Morgantown PRT. To be honest. It always comes back
Because
to
it's
the
hashtag
Morgantown
not like
PRT.
other automated metro systems.
That's right. Because it's just unique and it's cool, and there's nothing like it in the entire world, really. So, which I guess is what unique means.
I suppose.
Hmm.
I'm picking out of the ones I've ridden, the red line in Salt Lake, because it has the nice newer trains, unlike the blue line, and it's a much better routing than the green line or the S line.
This is true. I think that when we go on our spring break trip, that my favorite line is going to become like either a Muni line or a BART line. And we'll
Understandable.
See. Or maybe a Max line, but I doubt that because Max lines are kind of slow.
Well, I would like to ride Post-Tunnel Max.
That'd be nice.
That would be an easy new favorite.
Post-Tunnel Blue Line Max would be a very good line.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Alex just has Manhattan pulled up on the map, and he's like,
great.
wow.
That's only 24 subway services.
Yeah. Like...
Yeah.
Oh, look at this graph.
Okay.
Just say the one train and have done with it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know what train it was. Everyone goes to the One World Trade Center.
Just one goes there?
No, there's like 4 or 5.
Okay. Anyway, whatever.
The New York subway.
Alex says
let's just say the red line in Portland.
There you go. I thought you
Okay.
didn't like riding the red line. You said it was slow.
It was so, but I liked it
the
more.
the post-tunnel red line in Portland.
Ah, yes. Which will also be a light metro line.
Portland's current red and blue lines versus our red and blue lines.
Oh. I don't know. Because the quality of the places that are connected to the Portland red and blue line is significantly higher than the quality of except the University of Utah, which is lovely. And
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, That's a hard question because the quality of Portland's urban fabric is higher than ours in a lot of respects.
Okay, so better places on the trains. What about like the actual route? Like,
I will say that the West Side Max, the west half of the Blue Line, is very good and fast and great, and it goes in a tunnel under a mountain, which is cool.
this is cool.
It has
A twin bore tunnel.
And the twin bore tunnel. It's not single track like I previously was led to believe. And it has the deepest subway station in North America.
Yeah.
On 2 15-minute light rail lines. Oh no.
How do you think their downtown section compares with ours?
In terms of speed?
Well, in terms of speed and quality of the ride and the pedestrian experience around the trains.
The experience around the trains in Portland is definitely better.
That
but
makes
the
sense.
quality of actually trying to get through downtown on the train is markedly worse because it's very slow.
Even though ours is already slow.
Like it's like averages like 8 miles an hour through downtown.
Ugh.
So yeah, it's slow.
Ugh.
I would like to ascend the red line in Portland
Oh.
and just go for the link in Seattle.
Yeah, you
which
have ridden the link.
is actually my
The
favorite.
Seattle Metro Subway Link light rail train.
No, just the Seattle link that could have been light metro if they had simply grade separated one section and done high floor trains.
Yep.
Again with the bloody low floor trains.
Low floor trains suck. I don't know why we're so obsessed with them.
They're good if you're literally running on the street
Yeah,
on the
they're good for a
lines that are 100 years
streetcar.
old.
But like if you're building a brand new, mostly grade separated rapid transit line, it's supposed to be your
Even
regional spine.
Even our S line should have high floors.
No, the S line shouldn't have high floors.
Yes, it should.
In its current form, it should not. I disagree.
Ooh. School. Sorry.
Why are you saying he's right? I think I'm right. High floor, better
Because he
floor.
likes me better than you.
Oh, ouch.
Even the person that works at UTA.
Ah, yeah, checkmate. I work
I
there.
trust an UTA
right.
employee. So.
Okay, so what's your favorite transit line that exists? Baltimore Metro Subway Link, the Morgantown PRT, the Cleveland Red Line, New York.
I'm just gonna go with any train in England.
That is true.
Fair.
The Liz line.
I'm
we'll say
gonna go with my heritage and say England.
fair.
Fair. Insert your favorite automated light metro.
So you like SkyTrain, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I do like
Respectable.
SkyTrain.
I like platform screen doors and high frequencies.
I do like those things. Although SkyTrain doesn't have platform screen doors. They just have lasers between the tracks and the platform so that if you go over it, the trains stop.
Hey, lasers are cool. I
Yeah.
can get behind lasers.
I mean, I would think you'd want both, but I guess that works.
Lasers.
This is true. Yeah. So anyway, there's our very long-winded explanation of our favorite transit lines.
Yeah, thanks.
Do your favorite bus line in Salt Lake City real quick.
17.
17. I like the 455.
I have a mixed and unhappy relationship with most of them. The 21 is occasionally useful, but generally slower and less reliable than the red line. The 200 is occasionally
Almost like
useful.
That's the point of a rapid transit line.
The 200 is occasionally useful, but not consistent or reliable. The 2 hasn't run on a schedule for a while,
Ever.
quite a while.
Ever since I started riding it, it's never had a schedule.
Bloody hell. The 1 fails to provide the extra frequency benefit it was supposed to with the 2 between downtown and the university, and is also failing to run on much of a schedule.
They do get hella ridership though, the 1 and the 2.
Yeah. I'm going to say the 200. I'm
200?
not going to be
200.
happy about it. I'm just going to say that.
My other favorite bus is the 871.
Of course it is.
You always have the funny ones.
I
don't
like
you?
the 871.
Because it's a funny one.
Yeah, and it's like the only like non-coach bus that goes on the freeway consistently.
Scary. Like, how the hell is that safe?
It's perfectly safe.
No seatbelts, no airbag.
Well, yeah, but if the bus hits something, the
Well,
bus is going to come out on the better side.
Well, unlike
Yeah.
cars, buses that crush, buses are designed not to crush.
Yeah, so you
Nice.
just get thrown through the windshield.
Yeah, like it's not a school bus where you or a coach bus where you hit the seat in front of you. It's a low floor transit bus that's meant to go like 40 tops. Like this thing should not be on the freeway. I mean, to be fair, cars shouldn't be on the freeway because if somebody in a car is going to die in a high speed crash too, not just the bus riders. But
Yeah.
Oh,
scary.
yeah.
Anyway, as a final reminder, we do know what réseau means now. Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah, or shouldn't you be better at French?
Oh,
Oui.
pardonnez-moi. J'ai parlé français par unknown est un frequentatif. Si.
Moi aussi.
Moi aussi, si. Oui. Nous avons
oui.
parlé le français pas de temps, mais pardonnez-nous.
Du, mucho francés.
I lied. I did French for deux years.
Oh.
Deux.
Il est faux.
Oh my goodness. I think Alex needs to catch 17. So shall we break? Here, take
Yeah,
this
I
cardboard
gotta-
with you.
No, that should stay here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to catch my favorite bus.
Canada, our home and native land.
That is
True patriot love in all of us command. Glorious we see thee rise. What?
That's a good point.
I'm amused.
Oh, Canada.
You want me to do the French one now?
What is our Patreon episode about this time?
Well, we have to finish this episode first.
Well, I figured we'd
She
add
said
Oh,
it's
you
a
want to put it
teaser,
in the
right?
episode?
Yeah.
Our first episode was about, what was it about?
Well, what's the new one about?
Oh, it was, the new one is about weird elevated transit of the world, parentheses, United States. We're going to be talking about people movers downtown, of which there are 3.
Cool.
Which I will not tell you because that will be spoiling the episode, which you should give us money for.
So, our current patrons who enable us to do cool things in the future.
At Frontrunner tier, $10 a month, we have Curtis Herring, Mike Christensen, Phobos2390, and Zach Adams.
At $5 a month, we have our Red Line tier with Brian Smith, Christopher Whaley, Jacob Whitecotton, and Robert P. Walsh.
Blue Line, $3. We have Just Cuz, Ben Busath, DJ Will Watkins,
I will.
Ethan McDonald, Jack Dean, John Heron Gorman, Martin Ecker Martinez, Old Trolley, Scott Harris, and Seth.
How many Patreons
long
do
list.
we have now?
18? Yes.
That is enough to fill one steady room at the University of Utah.
Yeah, what's the fire code limit on those things?
About like 10 normally, but you know,
you can totally fit.
you
18
pack them
shows
in.
there.
We're doing crush load. So, bye.
Yeah, thanks for listening.